This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackupBradley above at the top of the screen and everything that we're talking about here today. Okay, let's go ahead and do the numbers real quick. And before we do, let's just understand we are going to cover the span of what is going on in this space right now as far as payments are concerned for the moment, and some clarity issues and a call to action from Brad Garlinghouse himself, doubling down on that call to action. And we're going to talk about that. And the other thing I wanted to say is that we're going to cover what is exactly going on in the predicted in the traditional markets and how might that really become a catalyst for a real bull market, let alone a bull run, but a bull market is what I'm more interested in for the crypto space. Let's get started. So the numbers this morning, Pure VPN, guys, if you want to help protect your anonymity online, I do it through Pure VPN. I use many different layers of protection when I'm online. Pure VPN is one of those layers that I use. I have a link in the description, 99-cent 7-day trial. Make sure you protect yourself going forward online. So here we go. BTC, $11,270.09. Ethereum, $367.36. XRP is 25 cents. Drilling down on that number, 0.2513 this morning. The market cap is 11.3 billion plus. The 24-hour volume is 1.4 billion. We are down about 2%, maybe a little more. And the total circulating supply remains now at 45,162 million. Those are your numbers. Let's go ahead and get right into this, shall we? So this one comes from James Rule, XRP. He wants to remind everybody that send money internationally for free through Coinbase. Yeah, send money to India, Mexico, the Philippines, and many other countries using XRP to USDC, free for all Coinbase users. Now, I think that has either been talked about for a while or it's been available for a while. But the point is that this is really a great feature. And if you have to send money, remittance money to family members or any other thing around the world, and you both are on Coinbase, look what you just did. You cut out the middleman. Cut that middleman right on out of here. That's what I'm talking about. Now, here's some more news in the exchange world. BitMEX operator hires chief compliance officer amid U.S. criminal charges. Well, you know, making these calls from the backhand after you get the backhand is not really the way to get it done, but nevertheless, they're finding their footing here, is what I would say. And look, this is good for the space. This space isn't going. This Wild Wild West stuff is over, okay? And they're wrangling the last cowboys back on into town. I can tell you that right now. This is to where it's going. And Elliptic adds full AML and CFTC compliance to Singapore's new digital dollar because they understand they don't want to have any issues just like BitMEX has had, right? So there it is there. You see the growth of an industry just in those few pieces of news right there. Yeah, this is not going the other way, okay? There's not going to be any, there's always going to be your pirates and people out here that want to anti-bank and this, that, and the other. God bless them. The libertarian in me just says, run to the light. I got it. But at the end of the day, this is not what the space is going to be. The space is going to be heavily regulated, and you better get used to that idea and notion because that's what's going to bring the massive money that we're about to talk about in a few seconds here. Okay, now going next piece of information, Swift GPI. Shout out to James Rule, XRP again. Swift GPI payment strategies, October 20th comes out with this PDF. I went through this whole PDF, and this is a really nice PDF. It's interesting. Now, it talks about what Swift GPI is, right? And it says here, and let me just read this one caption here. Swift GPI is a new standard in global payments. Using GPI, financial institutions and corporations can send and receive funds quickly and securely between accounts anywhere in the world with full transparency over where a payment is at any given moment, all enabled through easy-to-use digital tools. Now, if you remember, we did talk about this in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau when they passed this rule in July 21st, 2020. It went into effect at Swift GPI and Ripple right there and virtual currency XRP, which means they see XRP as virtual currency just as FinCEN did in 2015, as a solution along with Swift GPI for transparency for the first time in cross-border payments, to be able to not only see the path, but to be able to accept the payment before you make the transaction. How about that for moving up to the modern age, right? What's interesting about this for me in this document here is that when it explains what Swift GPI is and how they speed up transactions, give you the full transparency over where the payment is during the route of that payment and what it would cost before accepting that payment, which is fantastic. What it does not say in the entire 14 pages, I believe it is, of this PDF is that it's instant settlement, because it isn't. It's instant payment, right? There's the rub, and there's why I believe we'll see Ripple adopted in great wide fashion, because Ripple is actually instant settlement, not just instant payment. And I think these things complement one another instead of harm one another. I think everybody can win with a solution like instant settlement. So that's where we keep our eyes pointed in that direction on this news. And the other side of this is that we remember that the ISO standards body, which is the global de facto payment method going forward for the financial system, has brought on Ripple as the first and only member so far to deal with distributed ledger technology. Well, I think it says what it needs to say from there. And the fact that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, by the way, which is a heavy-handed enforcement agency that deals with fraudulent activity from payment companies and banks and the like, would not be giving a pass because this rule was already effective. So I think it comes down to a set of circumstances that Brad Garlinghouse is going to address that we're going to cover here in a recent tweet that happened just minutes ago. So let's keep going here. So Chris Brummer, Dr. Chris Brummer, this guy is so smart, it's unbelievable. He has so many different shows. He's got massive books out, and we interviewed him for the movie Kryptonaires, which, by the way, is still in post-production, but it is making advances, and I apologize to you that you can't see those advances, but shout out to Mike Jansen. I know he's working very, very hard on it with a heavy schedule that he has during his regular job. So we await the next little push where we're at in that post-production, and believe me, we're not far off from where we need to be, so it is very exciting. But anyway, shout out to Chris Brummer. This is quite interesting, and what he shows here is a graph, and let me just click on this graph here, because holders of U.S. government debt, and look at that. It shows the Federal Reserve holding quite a bit of debt there. We know that the Federal Reserve is holding at least 30% of mortgages, all mortgages in the United States. And I've heard it's even north of that now in the 40-50% range. That's phenomenal number to me. And what you're actually seeing here with the Federal Reserve holding so much debt is you're witnessing something that is not referred to as capitalism. Capitalism has two very key important components to it. It's profit and loss. And what you're actually seeing in that red bar there is an act of socialism that has been going on for decades, right? So there's that too. So let's wrap that in. So things aren't good, right? In short, things are not good. Wow, I wonder how much money will flow into cryptocurrency. Stock market crash. Experts expect 80% decline in massive financial crisis. Oh, really? Well, I think this lends into the last graph, and then it goes into this article right here. An 80% decline expected by experts here. And what I wanted to talk to you about is just a few points in the beginning here. David Hunter, chief macro strategist at Contrarian Macro Advisors, believes we could be on the verge of the biggest financial crisis in history. I'm inclined to agree with him. David Hunter says, divides his apocalyptic prediction into two phases. Everyone is different and follows different schedules. He says he assumes that a massive melt-up rally will take place in the next few months, which will ultimately create the conditions for a stock crash of 80%. And look, all I can say is that we've talked about this melt up idea where it literally just goes to the ceiling and then just smashes and then crashes down. You know, you could look at the chart, and we've looked at it not long ago, and it does look like stocks are severely overbought. They're at the top of the channel at the last diagram that we looked at. And I didn't have time to pull it up again or find it, but you know, when you think about derivatives in general being overbought, when this finally dawns on people, and it dawns on the institutions much sooner than it dawns on the regular consumer and a regular investor, by the way, and we're going to see evidence of that as well in just a second. But when you see that and this begins to happen, I have been pounding the ground here. There's 3 places of high ground. This is not financial investment advice. It's just my perspective of what I've seen in the last crisis or 2 that I've been alive for. And what I've seen each time is 3 high grounds in a time of crisis. And that is metals, which has been traditional, now cryptocurrencies, and then the other one, which is fintechs, blockchain. Right? Fintech companies. We have seen this in the last crisis. We've seen companies rise up out of these situations, just like in the dot-com era. We saw that in that particular time period as well. So something to pay attention to. Make sure you look at those things. You guys can figure out what you need. But that's why I encourage everybody to go download the Link2 app. Because I know you got to be an accredited investor to be able to purchase the stuff in Link2, but you don't have to be accredited to register and download the free app and become a part of that community. So you can get the inside baseball of what venture capitalists are actually doing next. What are they doing right now? What are they doing next? And what do they make of the markets in the traditional side and what that looks like to them? And I think you're going to find a very similar narrative. And I'll tell you what else you'll find, too, is really great conversation. So make sure you definitely register for that and check. And by the way, I personally don't believe too far from now, most of us will be accredited. So that's a beautiful thing, too. So now, Standard Chartered wants to hold more crypto for institutions. What? Shout out to Michael Val. 5 links for this one. Investment bank Standard Chartered is planning to grow its cryptocurrency holdings on its balance sheet on behalf of institutional investors. Okay, so maybe they understand that this 80% crash that's predicted by experts is actually going to happen. You know, institutional investors can see the writing on the wall because, first of all, they don't trade emotionally. Right? Or they don't even have a situation where, like, you know, a lot of people are like, hey, I just have a 401k. The money goes in there and I don't know anything that's going on unless I see it on the nightly news. Well, the nightly news has never been interested in your best interest. That's for damn sure. And I don't care what station you got it tuned into, because if they did, they'd be telling you about the greatest wealth paradigm shift in the history of mankind, which is cryptocurrency, and they're not telling you about it at all. So the reality is you're seeing the institutional investors get their footing and get their positions in this market before the masses, before the cattle come running in. Right? And that's really what we're talking about here. And don't forget, too, that Kahina Van Dyke, who used to be at Ripple, is now 1 node away right over there at Standard Chartered. So that's exciting, too. Now, let's get into this. Brad Garlinghouse makes another call to action. Okay? Another call to action here. 5 of it. He retweeted this, I guess it was, and it was originally from his October 12th, but I think he retweeted this just minutes ago. Yeah, so he added to this. So lots of speculation last week as Team Ripple considers some very important decisions about our future. I want to clarify a couple of things related to some of what I read. And then he says here, Ripple is a proud U.S.-based company. Ripple abides by and supports critical laws like strong BSA AML controls that keep bad actors out, consumers safe. We are not looking to evade the U.S. regulation. However, Last week's DOJ, Department of Justice report, lists 8 separate U.S. regulatory bodies, each with a different view. Crypto is property, crypto is commodity, crypto is virtual currency, crypto is a security, etc. Regulation shouldn't be a guessing game. To make matters worse, some regulators have already made decisions that actively favor Chinese technologies over us or over U.S. companies. Legislation like the DCEA can bring U.S. companies to equal footing. Now, that is a serious call to action. The lack of single national regulatory framework is putting U.S. innovation and U.S. companies at a significant disadvantage. All we're asking for is a level playing field. If we need to move to another country to get that, then that's the path we will have to take. Whoa! Dropping bombs this morning, Brad Garlinghouse. Shout out to you and the upcoming Swell event and everybody at Swell and Ripple. I hope it's a great event for everyone. You know, look, again, I have said this before. I have the luxury from the outside as a YouTuber, crypto analyst, and an investor, you know, in this space. I have the luxury being outside to just feel like this is going to happen. They're going to get what they need. Now, you know, Brad and Chris Larson, I said this over the weekend, you know, they are inside the inside. They have, money they contribute to lobbying. They know the day-to-day about who's in, who's out. If they were to vote today, they're still short this many votes. They know these conversations. So this might be why they feel that, call to action here. Plus, the time is now. China isn't waiting, right? China is developing and moving ahead. But at the end of the day, I do feel like this is going to happen. I feel like, I remain the eternal optimist. And I do believe that Ripple will get the clarity because I feel like the whole space needs the clarity, not just Ripple. I think getting the clarity that we need, like the DCEA, the Digital Commodities Exchange Act, passed, or just a collaboration, as Brian Brooks has said, of the several agencies, the 8 that he pointed out here, and getting the clarity and cohesion between those agencies will provide us either with the regulatory sandbox we need or the bill itself, which seems like it could just give us what we need in a very simple one fell swoop. There it is. And everybody can work and build their regulatory framework off of that legislation. Right. So that is exciting. I do know that we have a short window that if they wanted to get this done, they could get this done. I also feel like, look, at the end of the day here, I believe, and I don't just believe, all of this started back with the Federal Reserve Faster Payments Task Force, right? And they had 300 of the largest players around the world that needed to be a part of that task force. They had them on there. Ripple was a part of that task force. Ryan Zagone goes to the steering committee. They implement all of these things, but they still need clarity in the legislative world to get things moving. I believe that they get it. I don't believe that all that work was done so it wouldn't happen. And it would cause Ripple to, years later, end up moving their headquarters to another place. First of all, they have places all around the world. I think this does need to get done. I think the importance of the legislation really streamlines having to wait for all 8 agencies to fall into harmony together, right? And it could allow us to move past this quagmire that seems to be the lack of clarity all around for the space, as well as Ripple and XRP. But one thing I would remind you of is that there's no lack of clarity from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They have cited, as I just showed you in the document, that Ripple and XRP are a solution, as is SWIFT GPI, to cross-border payments. Full transparency. Okay, so then while that's happening, I want to finish on this note here. Ripple wires nearly 100 million XRP, while RippleNet and ODL now available in 55 countries. I love the picture that they chose here because it looks like the universal highway of the XRP ledger, just how I would imagine it. And that is amazing to me. Guys, before you get out of here, make sure you check the links in the description in the comment section below. I'm going to make a call to action myself here. Ledger family, pack Pack S, Ledger Nano S, $139. It's like almost $40 savings right now for the Ledger Family Pack. Click the links in the description to get the best deals around. And hit the like and subscribe, and make sure you share with somebody you know. Leave a comment below, and I'll catch all of you on the next one.